welcome to Finance Conversations. This is the 67th episode of the Merging Life and Money Show, and I am delighted to be here today. For those of you who do not know me, I am your host, Marie-Jo César. I help professional women bridge the gap between life and money by teaching them the relevant financial skills and knowledge they need to take control of their money, manage their finances, and understand that they can live their best life with the money they have. Thank you for joining in today. If you are watching the replay, make sure to type #replay in the chat and leave me some comments and questions. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. I come to you live every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to share valuable information about how to achieve financial wellness and live your life with means and meaning. So today we are continuing our student loan series, and my special guest, Eric Dudley, which I'm going to bring in right now, who is a frequent contributor to the Merging Life and Money Show, will be talking about college fees, funding options. If you recall, for those of you who listened to the show last week, Eric talked about the need to be proactive and save for college well ahead of time. So Eric is an independent, experienced, holistic financial advisor whose specialties are retirement planning, investing solutions, and life insurance. So Eric is also the founder and president of Dudley Financial Group, and one of Dudley's Financial Group's main objectives is to help their clients build their best tomorrow while protecting them today. So welcome, Eric, to the Merging Life and Money Show, and welcome, followers and listeners. Thank you for joining in today. So grab a pen and a notebook, as you might want to take some notes to discuss them further with family members, friends, and colleagues, whatever it is, because it is about sharing values that could benefit others. And that particular topic is a very, very important one. So again, any comments or questions, please put them in the chat. Now, regarding the Merging Life and Money Show, as you know, its main objective is to really empower as many women and as many people as I can with what I know about money and finance, and of course, by also bringing some knowledgeable guests to share the values with you guys. So as mentioned a few moments ago, we'll be talking about the many options available to fund yours and your kids' college fees. And I will start by saying that there are so many of them that we have decided to cover them today and next week as well. And some of them that we're going to cover today are grants and scholarships, loans, prepaid college plans, savings, and cash. So let me give today's show some context before I turn it over to Eric, because Eric will be doing all the talking today. That's his area of expertise. So the cost of college is one of the biggest financial decisions a student or parent of a student will have to make. Okay. So while there are many funding options available, each of them has its pros and cons. And the best option for each student depends on their individual circumstances. So let's take a quick look at the average cost of college tuition, which only represents part of the total college expenses. Okay. So according to a recent U.S. news statistics, the average college tuition cost rose in the 2021-22 academic year across both public and private colleges. I will add that tuition prices are rising despite some schools instituting tuition freezes and discounts last school year in response to the economic impact, of course, of the coronavirus outbreak on families throughout the country. So according to some very recent statistic, in an annual survey for the 21-22 academic year, the average tuition and fees at private rated universities has risen by around 1%. And similarly, the average price for in-state and outstate tuition and fees at ranking public institutions have also risen by around 1 to 2%. So as the statistics show, the cost of going to college can be a big problem for a lot of people. So Eric, tell us about what is currently available there for students and parents alike as far as funding for college is concerned. And by funding option, we are looking at ways of both saving and paying for college. So over to you, Eric, and let's have that conversation.
Okay. Hey, thanks for having me on, MJ. I really appreciate it. And I am really excited about this subject. You know, it's very appropriate for the time of year. A lot of kids are going to be starting school next year, starting college. A lot of kids are going into ninth grade, which is a really big time to start thinking about college planning. Once they get into ninth grade, they can start getting with counselors. They can start having ideas and dreams about what they want to do in college. And of course, parents can start pointing them in the right direction so that they can have the best college experience possible. You start whenever they're freshmen and sophomores in high school. If you do that, you'll really see a dramatic increase in how much more they get out of college. And also, hopefully, you can start seeing savings for what you pay for college. So that's one of the things we're going to cover in a few weeks, especially. Just to kind of recap what we talked about last week, you know, college is still very important. Any post-high school education is very important in today's world. I don't think anybody out there would think that the world is getting less technical. It's getting more technical all the time. It's getting more complicated. And the need for more education is growing and growing all the time. So people need to understand they're going to have to pay for that in some way. And of course, it's expensive. Since 1970, the rate of inflation in America has been constantly around 3%. But the rate of college tuition and college cost have risen at 4.6%, or 4.6 times the rate of inflation. So more like 14% of rate of inflation for college since 1970 for a 50-year period. That just kind of goes to show you how expensive college has become. And the reason why we have to have shows like this to talk about, you know, which arm and which leg you're going to have to cut off to be able to afford it. So what we're going to talk about today, the first one is the best one. So pay attention, make sure you write these things down because we're talking about scholarships and grants. Okay. It is the best way to pay for college. Okay. If you can get other people to pay, that's the best way. So here we go. In 2021, there was $138 billion in grants received in those years, okay? And 38 billion of it was from the federal government. There's a lot of grants out there, okay?
Can I interject there? I mean, this blows my mind. And I'm saying that to say that we're talking about 138 billion of grant money and grant that has been received. Yet again, that student debt is there, you know, so how do you explain that? I mean, I don't want to cut your flow, but you know, this is crazy.
A lot of students, almost everybody wants to go to college whenever they're in high school. Nowadays, the average student, they believe, well, of course the next step is college. it's the natural next step. It didn't used to be, 60 years ago or so. The next step would probably go in the military or get a job, whatever. But now the kids, without even being told, are like, well, education just keeps on going. They've been in education since they were 4 years old in a lot of cases. They've been doing it all their life, so it's year 13 for them.
I really can't help it but to think that, okay, a lot of educated people there, yet again, a lot of debt all around. And, and I guess educated doesn't necessarily mean that you're financially aware of how to use your money, because that's a lot of money. I mean, I think last week when we were talking about it, we're talking about a total of probably 1.4 trillion of student debt in America, and like you got 138 billion with a B. That's what you said, right?
Yes.
In grant money. Okay, continue on. Sorry, I had to make that point.
No. Please do. It's a conversation. So one of the largest types of grants you can get is the Pell Grant, and it provided financial aid to 7.5 million students during the 2020 and 2021 years. In 2020, 58% of families used some type of scholarship or grant to help pay for college. A lot of times it's a partial payment, so it's not full rides or anything like that you always hear. Most of the people who get scholarships or grants are getting they're getting it piecemeal. They're getting it a little bit here, a little bit there, and they're trying to gather it together as best they can to help pay for the total cost. And about 7% or 1 in 8 students are likely to receive a scholarship. So what does that tell you? That means that if 58% of the people are actually using them, that means that students are a lot of times applying for many of them. Okay, they apply for 12 of them to get 3 or something like that, And so just you got to keep on applying. You got to keep on finding them because they're all over the place, and it's not just federal. I mean, of course, just by the numbers, what I went over, the federal ones are just part of the total that's given out every year. It's a bunch of private ones out there that can be applied for. You just have to find them, and there's ways to find them.
So tell me, in an average, how long does it take for one to apply for a grant, private or public? The period of time between that and receiving the money.
Oh, well, I mean, that depends on whatever scholarship it is. There's too many to even say, because it's all up to their timetable. They might have their own system of gathering the applicants, the people that they're going to award.
I was just trying to figure out, okay, if I had a kid who were to start college in September of 2022, so how soon would they have to apply for those?
Certainly in their senior year. I mean, certainly before Christmas, or even just after Christmas, of their senior year. You wouldn't want to wait any later than that, if possible. The earlier, the better.
Yeah, and I'm making that point because very often, okay, I want to go to college, and when the time is nearly there, that's when you do your application for college and stuff like that. But you got to do that the way before. Yeah.
A lot of this will be covered in the last segment.
The last section. The last part. Okay.
And that whole section is going to be how to make the college experience better while the child is in high school, so that you start talking about how to make sure they're taking the right classes in high school, how to make sure they know how to do college visits, how to apply for grants and loans, and where to apply for them, and how to do them faster and be more successful at receiving them, and of course how to make sure that you can qualify for them financially.
And some serious education there.
Yeah. So that's a really good show. I definitely recommend anybody watching that one if you have any kids that are going to school. Anyways, but loans,
Mhm.
nobody wants to talk about loans, but hey, you got to talk about them because a lot of people are going to need at least partial payment from loans because you're probably not going to get full payment from scholarships or grants and stuff. So loan rates can go anywhere from 2.75% to over 5%, depending
Mhm.
upon what your credit rating is and who you're getting the loan from, private institution, different institutions from the government. There's tons and tons of loans out there, all over the place that you can get. And like you said earlier, $1.7 trillion in loan debt right now in the United States. It's growing all the time. Probably going to be over $2 trillion in the matter of a year or two. The current state of loan debt. Okay, this is interesting. An average student loan debt is $32,000. Okay, the median student loan debt is $17,000. That means, of course, that the most people would say we around the $17,000 range, but the average is 32,000 because there's so many people that go to higher, cost
Education, yeah.
schools
Mhm.
that it drags up the average
Right,
that
right.
much. And
Mhm.
then the same way with the average student loan payment, the average student loan payment is almost $400, $393. But
So,
the median student loan payment is $222.
mhm. So tell me, would a student be able to complete their first degree, their 4-year education on grant alone?
On grants alone?
Uh-huh.
Well, it all depends. I mean, if they qualify financially,
No,
okay.
I'm not saying that that's a possibility. So
Sure. And
I'm looking, it's not that, okay, a portion of your fees must be a ratio in grant and a ratio in loan. Because, I'm always wondering if as you call it, um, other people money,
right.
you know,
Right.
grants and scholarship, if they are readily available. And so if well prepared, one could actually fund their whole schooling, higher education via grants and scholarship.
Oh, sure, it
Yeah.
can. It can happen. I mean, of course, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of
Oh,
planning for that,
yeah, no
because
pain, no gain, right?
right, exactly. I mean, the students got to have the grades for it. They've got to they got to jump through all the hoops, okay? Because the scholarships and grants are going to require them to jump through hoops and to be able to qualify in all different ways. And of course, each one is different, so you can't say, well, which one's the best? I mean, like, for instance, one of the things I looked up whenever I was preparing for the show, I thought that was so strange. You would think that there would be more grants and scholarships for kids that had super high GPAs. But I noticed that there was more grants and scholarships actually for kids that were 3.0 students to 3.4 students than the ones that were closer to 4.0.
Really?
I thought that was unusual, I mean, but I don't know. I mean, maybe those types of students just qualify in other ways. And
Right.
so it's not just about, academics. It's all sorts of ways. And it all depends upon the scholarship and grant.
Yeah, good. Because I mean, that's when you see the amount that is available there, and of course, why not take advantage of it? But as you said, from where I stand, I would take the pain and filling in grant application and all that, like have the pain beforehand, then pay for it later on by way of student loan. You see what I mean? So yes, it's difficult. You got to repeat what you said, jump through hoop. But I rather be fit jumping through hoop than having to, to really have a big block holding my ankle for years,
Sure.
long after I have graduated.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
came to my mind. I just remember a commercial I used to watch whenever I was a kid. It was the slogan was, "You're going to either pay me now or you're gonna have to pay me later." And I think it was a muffler commercial, actually. And I don't know, it just stuck in my head right then whenever you were talking about that. You're right. If a person works for it now, they won't have to pay later. But if they don't do it, they'll have to pay later because it's going to cost them.
So it's like everything else. I mean, if you plan to retire, well, you better plan it ahead of time, right? So if you plan to go to school, you better figure out what's available there and to assist you. So the more you could get in grant and scholarship, the less you have to rely on loans that that are not your friend once you graduate. Okay.
That's a perfect segue actually into the next one. The next one is prepaid college plans. So again, you're paying today's rates to be able to go to school in 18 years. Okay. So let's just say you start off whenever your baby's brand new, and you just had your baby and you're saying, oh, well, let's go ahead and start talking about college right then. Well, always the best plan to do it as soon as possible. Right. If you start now and you start paying today's rates for college, 18 years from now, college is, well, almost certainly going to be much more expensive. So it's a really good idea to think about perhaps using prepaid college plans. I mean, it definitely has an advantage for that. And you can use the pay the money using like a 529 type of plan. You can have all the growth in the money that you're spending tax deferred, so that you don't have to pay taxes until you start withdrawing it, just like in a 529 plan, which we'll talk about next week, by the way. But now here's a negative for prepaid college. It can only be used for tuition. Okay. Now, tuition is a big part of college, but there's a lot of other parts of college. I mean, if a person is living on campus, they gotta eat, they gotta have shelter, they gotta buy books, they gotta have midnight pizza. No, wait, that was just me.
Of course, you got to be able to sustain your student life.
Right, exactly. So unfortunately, the prepaid college plans can't be used for those things. It only can be used for tuition. So it's a good plan. But as you'll see with all of these plans, some of them have they have good pluses, but some of them have minuses too, and you just have to know which one's the best for you. And then also, not all states and not all universities in states accept this. So you have to find out which states have it and which universities use it.
All right. So that again, you got to plan ahead, and right. In order to have whatever you need when you need it. Basically. Yeah.
Okay. And the last one that we're going to talk about today is the savings and cash. I mean, look, savings in the old way is really safe in some ways because, of course, you're not going to have any market risk. You're not going to say, oh, it's going to grow up and to be $100,000 when they're 16. Unfortunately, we had a huge drawdown in the market whenever they turned 16, 17, 18, and now it's only worth $50,000. That can happen. I mean, people in 2022 know that. And so
inflation is serious.
That's right. They're living it right now. Yeah. And so, obviously, if you keep it in a savings account, it's safe from market, risk, but it's not safe from inflation risk. That means that, your money is becoming less and less worth less and less all the time. And so if
inflation takes a bite at it every day.
Yes, exactly. And even if you, like, for instance, you put it in a money market or if you put it in CDs, those rates of return are just kind of a joke compared to what they used to be. And who knows, maybe in 15 years, they'll get better. I mean, they might be a lot better if inflation keeps on going like this and interest rates go up. Yeah, maybe we'll have a different atmosphere then. But right now, they're a joke. And so people would get eaten up by inflation if they did that. And of course, a lot of people, I mean, they just don't have the option to just say, well, I'm going to pay for most of college or all of college out of just your paycheck. If people just said, well, I'm not going to save, and whenever it comes up, I'll just take money out of my budget and start paying for college. Well, it's like paying for a house, out of your, like in 4 years, I'm going to pay off a house. That's.
Yeah, that's no, I don't think that's possible.
Well, if you can, my name's Eric Dudley and I do investments. I want to meet you.
Yeah, totally. I'm agreeing with you on that one because I mean, this is not. I mean, we're laughing about it, but it's not a small piece here, And as you said, gone the days that you can't say that you don't have access to education. It is there, but like everything else, you got to plan for it, right? And the good thing is that there are options available there, but again, you got to plan it. You got to find out the options that are there, and choose the one that works best for you. And as you said, okay, I may have to apply for 15 grants in order to get 3.
Yeah.
But here it is. That's the way it goes. But at least you don't have to worry about having to pay back a student loan, right?
Oh yeah, and there's so much more the student's going to have to do anyway. I mean, it's not just grants and loans and paying, getting the financial in place. They're going to have to, of course, do great in school. They're also going to have to apply for colleges left and right. And I mean, you ask any high school kid who's serious about their education, they're putting in probably a dozen applications at least.
Oh yeah, I've been there with my kids. I can tell you that's no picnic, and then rushing home after school, okay, to check the box to say, okay, well, did I? Now I guess it's more like email now. But when my kids were in school, it was, you're waiting for that envelope.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
School. Yeah. So that's good. So believe it or not, it's 26 after the hour. 26. We've been talking about for 26 minutes already.
I know, and we have 6 more other college funding options that we could go over. That's why I wanted to split it up into 2 shows, because there's a lot.
And understandably, because it is important to break it down, because if we could do anything to help people that are contemplating going to college or getting their kids ready for college, they ought to know what options are available. So I thank you for that, Eric, for educating us about the cost of college for one, and the many funding options that are available. All right, so I am going to wind down some and sum it up. Try to sum it up a little bit. So today we continue talking about student loan and focused on and talked about saving for college and focused on the expense of education and the many financial sources that are available. All right. So you touched on, you explained about grant and scholarships, which I heard a number of 138 billion that is received in 2021 by a student who did apply for it. We talk about loans, and which currently, more recent statistics to that 1.7 trillion in America. Then you talked about the prepaid college plans, and you probably be talking more in detail about the 529 plan, which people have to be doing their homework before they get into this, because as you mentioned, not every institution would accept those.
I meant the prepaid college plans. 529. 529 is just a part of the prepaid thing.
Yeah. So, and then last but not least, you mentioned the whole savings and cash situation, which it's if you have it, fine, but it's not, in my view, really a realistic option. Particularly now, given the rate of inflation that we are all experiencing. So as I see it, for many families, the expense of education remains a substantial financial issue. And many people actually, they misjudge the sticker price. And as you well said, tuition is one thing, but there are a lot more that goes into being a student and living a student life. According to the latest 2021 Fidelity Investment and College Saving and Student Debt poll, they found out that 38% of high school students and 1 in 4 parents estimated the entire cost of attendance for 1 year of college to be $5,000 or less, right? So this figure is far lower than what they ever expected to pay, regardless of it being public or private for 4 years. In 4 years of university. However, in addition to tuition fees, as we just said, students must also pay for expenditures like accommodation, food, books, which can total, a few $1,000s for each year, right? Yeah. So you must also note that college selection influences affordability, right? So again, according to that same Fidelity study, 4 out of 10 high school students rank cost as the most essential consideration in selecting a college. So according to that same report that I was reading when I was doing a bit of research, the US News, the average tuition and fee for a rated public institution in the state it's around like 73% cheaper than the average sticker price at a private college, right? And it's around, I guess, as you mentioned, you made the difference between the median and the average, right? So, and it's ranked about 10,288 for 21-22 academic year compared to $38,000, 185 for the same year. The average cost for out-of-state student at public university is about $22,700. As I had mentioned, well, you mentioned it earlier in the show. So I cannot say it enough. College is expensive these days. So don't let yourself be caught off guard. Okay, it's no need for that because the resources are there. They are readily available. So do not let this very important expense meet you by chance. Okay, so start saving now and give your children the best possible opportunity for a bright future. Okay, remember, the best option for each student depends on their individual circumstances. Okay, so this brings us to the end of today's Merging Life and Money episode. Excuse me, listeners and followers, I hope that you have enjoyed today's show and that you have a better understanding on how to plan and save for college costs, right? And as you know, I like to end the show with a quote. And today I am quoting Hank Johnson, and it reads, "The rising cost of higher education, coupled with the stress of paying student loans, are putting increasing pressure on students." Hank Johnson is an American lawyer and politician, currently serving as a U.S. representative for Georgia's 4th Congressional District. So thank you, Eric, for your awesome contribution to the show today. We will meet again next week for part 3 of our series on student loan, and we will continue to talk about the various funding options that are available. Thanks again, Eric.
Thanks, MJ.
For more information about how to achieve financial wellness and how from the inside out and really live a purposeful life with the money that you have, join me next week, Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Atlantic Time, and 10 a.m. Friday, Brisbane, Australia time. Thank you for being here today on the Merging Life and Money Show. I am your host, Marie-Jo César. I will be back again next week. Until then, continue merging life and money. Bye for now.